Hi there, everyone. Good evening. This is Helenique Argeru, and tonight we are talking about this really priceless subject theme that I came across a while ago, investigating really the deeper ways that psychology can help us understand business and the way we can also improve the quality of our lives and the way that we work, our careers, and our purposeful mission or project that we are busy with in life by understanding human behavior, our own, and those things that other people do that actually frustrate us or bother us or confuse us in our professional lives. So tonight we're talking about goal obsession. This is what it has been called the flaw that makes more flaws. And I thought that was a really brilliant title. And it actually comes from Goldsmith, who really is also going to enlighten us with some of his deep study on the subject as I go along the theory tonight. But let me start off telling you why we do these podcasts, and what they are really geared up to is providing you with the psychological tools and the way that you can actually apply this information to your life is certainly going to make you a lot more knowledgeable about the way human beings are interacting and the way that you yourself are actually applying yourself to your life. So high achievers and perfectionists, people who are very producing orientated or performing very specifically at work, are normally people who are very good at being able to set and accomplish goals. So this goal directed attitude that we are trained into or coached into nowadays is all, under the name of mindset, and so much goes into getting us to become very proficient or very high in our performance. And this has a price. We want to know, though, however, that normally there's a type of personality that goes into this quite strongly, and it's a type A personality, someone who also runs strong health risks later on in life, and there's been a lot of study on that. But really the important aspect of knowing how to set goals and achieving them is something we all need to do. But when we start to distort reality because of that, and or when we start to sideline everything else and we prioritize that over and above personal relationships, our health, our well-being, our satisfaction, we are seriously distorting reality, and there is a great price that we end up paying. So this kind of obsessive focus on the goal is what we are talking about today. And you might have it yourself, or you might be dealing with people that have it. And certainly if your boss has it, then it's a very difficult thing for you to be dealing with. So we're going to look at what it is, and we're going to look at specific ways to redirect this tendency and make it a really healthy quality that you use in your life to achieve great things, but to also take the proverbial road less traveled in life is a great thing to learn to do. And on whatever road you travel, to stop and smell roses, literally the cliche, is very important to remember, because once we lose touch with the present moment along the journey of traveling and we become just destination focused, we run a great risk. And psychologists actually say that this risk is very similar to the one that a lot of sages, seers, and spiritual seekers talk about, which is the loss of true fulfillment and happiness in pursuit of the goal. And it's also very likely that we are then going to actually become very depressed and or drop in our morale and motivation when we actually achieve a goal and it doesn't make us happier and it doesn't bring fulfillment. And so there's so much teaching about this. And we'll see exactly why tonight. We need to be able to be in the flow of life and in the action of our pursuit of our goal at the same time. This is why we walk the path, but we also stop and smell the roses. So that work-life balance cliche is also coming into this discussion. So what are the advantages of being goal-directed or very, very focused on the goal, even goal-obsessed? You definitely can increase your productivity and success by being very focused and very goal-directed. But really, when you become goal-obsessed, there's some serious disadvantages. And really, this involves the feeling of unfulfillment that creeps up on us when we've actually accomplished the goal, and we see that we've made it out to mean much more than it actually does. And the second one is that actually when we become so obsessed with goals or anything else, we tend to train our neural pathways to constantly need more. And this can lead to many things. It can also mask many deep self-limiting beliefs or some real insecurities and core complexes in the deeper part of the mind, where we begin to believe that we are not enough, we are not good enough, when we might really originate from that idea. And so we have to keep pursuing and keep getting and keep achieving. And then we train ourselves to constantly need that rush. And sometimes it's even a biochemical kind of dopamine, adrenaline type cortisol effect on the brain, which is feeding us a kind of high. And there are many ways to experience healthy highs, which I'll be telling you about. And we'll also have a training on addiction. So you want to listen in for that, because we talk about this very specifically. And we also talk about brainwave states, peak brainwave states that help you work smart and not hard. And I'll be telling you about all of those in upcoming meetings with you. So for now, you need to know, though, that when you are in this mode of bigger, better, more achievement, and you yourself recognize that you're not feeling the fulfillment when you arrive there, you might definitely be goal obsessed. And the seduction, I guess, about all of this is that we believe that we're only really going to be happier when we get there, when we arrive. I remember going to a Ferrari dinner once, and it was a very interesting experience, because everybody in the room had a Ferrari, and they'd done this what they called a dream drive in South Africa at the time, from Cape Town to Johannesburg, or Johannesburg to Cape Town, Gauteng we call it now. And it was a very interesting experience, because most of the people in the room spoke about that, saying that they feel they'd arrived in their lives. And I thought that was a powerful symbol, to be very productive and very successful, and to be able to afford a Ferrari or whatever luxurious car you've dreamt of your whole life is beautiful. And if you can enjoy that and take literally a dream drive and enjoy that, that's beautiful. But just be aware, be careful if you start to want the next Ferrari and the next Ferrari, and you're never happy with the one that you're having, because this is the goal obsession that we talk about. And it involves often neglecting other people in your life around you. There might be this obsession to be making money, to be working so hard that you just neglect your personal relationships, your wife, your kids, your husband, your friends, the people that really need you, maybe like your parents, or the older people than you, the ones that are meeting death very soon. You might be neglecting them. And so, it's quite an important thing to realize that even when you want something really badly, you want it often for yourself. And that can be very self-serving and a little narcissistic, especially when it's at the expense of everybody else in your life, and a kind of connection with others that they need from you. So you might even be doing harm to your body. You might have always wanted to lose weight, or you're very goal directed about that. And at the risk of it, you actually distort things and damage your body, or you might exercise too much, or eat too lavishly, and in rebellion to this goal obsession that you have, and find that in that way you also damage yourself and your body. So this kind of obsessing about weight can lead to all kinds of extreme contrasting behaviors. And so right there we can see that we can be very goal obsessed and actually do damage, paradoxically. You might trample on colleagues. You might actually really hurt people's feelings at work when you are so driven that the humane emotional intelligence that you can be acting from is not operating, and you're not able to create that human connection. And maybe people like this that you suffer by. So I think it's quite easy for you to understand that being goal obsessed, or being around someone who is, can be very difficult personally and interpersonally. There's also just a real sense that we could then just always be, out in life, heading in one direction, thinking that that's where we need to go, but we end up somewhere else totally. Now, there are even more negative impacts of being goal directed, like I mentioned, the one about being in this increased cortisol arousal state on the biochemical level in your brain. We spoke a lot about that. You can check out a video talking about the psychological and neurological biochemical effects of being under pressure. The title has under pressure in it. And so if you're stressed at work, or you know someone who is, or you're worried about burnout for whatever reason, have a look at that video and understand the impact of that. And then know that, you know, there is also a way that we can end up becoming, like I said, narcissistic. There's a video on that, toxic boss, so you can look at that. But really, the part of us that becomes very judgmental and imposes standards is the part of us that we run the risk of developing if we are goal obsessed. Now, the really powerful set of words, these next words, are the ones that convinced me that this was a great topic. And it had something to do with winning too much, right? So now, when you think about people in your life that have won too much or have gotten so used to winning in life, and maybe it's even you, you will notice that it comes with a kind of competitive edge. There might be a type of aggression in it, and it also can come with like just generally a bad taste, totally, where you believe and feel like that person is just really too self-oriented. And the interesting reality is that when people have been winning too much, there's very specific qualities in their personality that have not developed. So whatever you define failure is as, pardon me, or whatever you think is weak, or whatever creates a context for you to connect with your vulnerability, is actually the area where you learn how to stand in life without having the external world validate you or value you. It's where you find your own true strength, your own truth, and your own truth of power, meaning, existence, and conviction in life. And so if you don't have any of that, and you're constantly winning, it really becomes a problem. Your ego starts to depend on being better than others, or getting more than others. And this is the only way you feel yourself to be valuable. Adam Atler, a PhD holder, actually talks to a very interesting point about the modern times that we live in, and how we are getting into this irresistible rise of addictive behavior through technology, obviously. And we are actually in the business of being hooked and trying to keep hooking other people through this technological network that we've developed. And really our tendency now to be really focused on our phones and other technological tracking devices that we use to set our goals and to get things done. We are slowly training ourselves and meeting other people in the world that are doing the same to actually become a little bit unaware of the intrinsic value of another human being. And we're looking at the way that others are lighting us up through the technology, but not necessarily finding out in each moment how to value what is there. So we're becoming very goal directed, and actually it's making us move into the psychological state of continuous social comparison with others, continuously looking at how we compare and how we measure up. And really this kind of goal setting that's happened in the last 20 years has escalated so much that a lot of people nowadays are really just way more goal driven than they ever were before. And as I said, there's a price if you're running this kind of cortisol continuously, if you're winning too much. And if you are really, you know, struggling, you might end up in one of the worst impacts in human life is to really reach burnout. And so it's something to be thinking a bit more about if you do find yourself measuring quite high in prioritizing your own goals and your own fulfillment above everything else in your life. So the very interesting example here was given in a context different to business, but still highlighting goal obsession, by Darley and Batson, and they were part of the seminary, Princeton Theological Seminary, where the example was given that ministers were being trained, and they were walking across the in a lunch break. They were walking across a certain outdoor area from one side of the campus to the other, and there was a set-up scene of some of the teachers for these ministers to have set up a type of challenge where they proposed a dilemma, saying to some of the ministers walking past, you're late, right, for a class. And really it was set up that the ministers were to deliver a sermon on the topic of being a good Samaritan. So they forced them to rush across the outdoor space and get to this class around being good Samaritans. And of course, there was an actor in the middle of the scene, and this actor was playing the role of a hurt person and started to say out loud, I need help, help me, as the ministers were passing. And of course, 90% of the ministers ignored the pleas of this person in need, and the importance of them getting to the lecture on being a good Samaritan was actually much more important than actually dealing with a Samaritan in the outdoor scene. And this example sets up our dilemma really well, where it illustrates the fact that goal obsession means that we end up getting so wrapped up in achieving our goal that we forget our ultimate mission. The mission in this story is to learn how to help others, and that's what the lecture is on. But if, as you're walking to the lecture, proverbially, you're taking this path and you don't stop to appreciate whatever it is that's on the path that could be teaching you something about where you're going, then you are definitely missing the point of it all. And our career focus can do something similar, where you make it all about just achieving that result, as opposed to really enjoying and feeding your relationships and being fulfilled as you get there. We all know how hard it is to succeed at whatever it is that we're doing, how much time, effort, and dedication it takes. And so we do need to be more effective and smarter about how we do this, and learn to find ways to appreciate the whole experience, not just wait for that one moment. Another example is perhaps a manager, someone who's sort of thought to be really top in their field, a superstar, someone who's always achieving their goals. And, you know, maybe this woman is also goal obsessed to the point that she has worn away the warmth inside of her. And this kind of sunny, optimistic personality that she once had is disappearing. She's not really feeling the joy and exhilaration of her experiences so much anymore. She's becoming hard, cold, and both to her subordinates and her employers, she doesn't really show very much of who she truly is. And she might even start getting feedback like she's not really very approachable or very pleasant to deal with. She's just so goal orientated. And this can become a universal complaint, where this person might learn to be, and this is a very real example, the center of attention so often and so much that it eventually starts to look like they are hogging the spotlight. I'm sure you know someone like this, who's maybe very competitive together with this, and maybe very successful even, and not necessarily either. It could just be someone who is just so dedicated to their own success that they actually then become annoying. And this person slowly starts to allow other people to get the praise for things, but might start to circumvent it or bring it back to their role in it all as well, having a way of somehow claiming credit for things, even when they maybe don't deserve it. And this is a really progressed stage. So you want to watch out if you're getting to that area where you start losing contact with people in a positive and pleasant way, and you start to feel that this way that you thought you were really going to find some kind of true happiness is not happening. And in fact, you might be actually ending up in exactly a different direction to where you have been heading. And if that's the case, you want to start asking yourself these questions. So anyone watching this video has a chance to email me for a very specific complimentary gift that will help you calm down. This is from the Rhythmic Entrainment Institute, and it's a very powerful technology using the principles of entrainment, helping your brain interact with a very specific, detailed sound that then starts to develop a deep level of concentration and relaxation at the same time, much like a pendulum that's influencing another pendulum. Your brain starts to do something called entrain, and this really helps you to come out of this adrenaline state. And so if you're interested in this gift, you just need to email me, and for this gift you can email me at ahaiqmail@gmail.com. So that's ahaiqmail@gmail.com. That will go to my assistants, and you just have to put in the subject box REI, and we'll send you the calming audio so that you can get started. And there will be another video talking about exactly this fact, that your brainwave states can be altered so that you can actually reach much calmer levels of operation, and you can also bypass this cortisol adrenaline addiction and start training yourself to clean out your nervous system and calm down and actually work in what I call the flow state and learn how to reach flow states. So I'll be telling you about stress in the brain and how to reverse some of these addictive type of peak states that we might be pursuing, and how to create other ones that are healthier. So I'll tell you a little bit about brainwave stimulation. I'll explain entrainment, and I'm also going to give you some really interesting cutting edge research on brain optimization and how you can really start working smarter and not harder. And I'm going to talk about that related to stress in that video. And then there'll be a whole series of videos on flow, really. And flow is this really powerful brainwave state where we begin to surpass our own challenges. We work for less time and we get better results, and we're much more integrated in the way that we're working. And we're doing that because we get into the zone. And there's no obsession and there's no neurochemical addiction happening there. We are just so inspired, integrated, all at the right time, and getting great results from it. So what are these questions you should be asking yourself so that you make sure you're not getting goal obsessed and you're not ending up in the wrong place when you are so driven in your career? It's really a 4-phase process. So at any time, you need to really realize this, that even though you are focused on your productivity, you might be even someone who's focused on self-development, but really realizing that this doesn't necessarily make us happier is a really important thing to accept. So let's just absorb that, you know, even if you are focused on your personal development, and or you're a high achiever and you are successful, and or you are driving towards that, this will not necessarily make you happier. How does it feel? So when you know that that's probably true, it's a good time to begin to check yourself when you see yourself going back into the goal obsession. And this is what you can do. You ask yourself, first question, why do I actually want to complete this goal? So a good way to test that is to ask, is it for yourself? Is it for others? Is it because you don't know what else to do? So you need to find out why, first of all. Secondly, you need to ask yourself if it's at all possible that you were to do it without a result. This is a good way to really gauge how you have positioned your value in this final moment. Like, have you actually attached it to an outcome? And if that's the case, you might have what I was calling a distortion of reality there, and try to see if you can ask yourself the question of how you might enjoy it more. This is a way for you to stop focusing only on the destination and also enjoy this journey getting there. The third question you can ask yourself is how you can actually start to disconnect it from comparing yourself to others. So if you were to start this activity, for example, could you do it without looking at how others are doing it or the results other people got? Could you just make it about your own experience of being able to enjoy this particular challenge in your life, and whatever outcome you get, you accept and you appreciate? And that's a good way to also get clear if you really are trying to accomplish something so that you can outdo someone or you can prove yourself. Maybe you've never gotten the validation and recognition you've always wanted, and you might be driving towards results, continuously achieving in order to have others give you praise and to validate you or value you more. And this is the neurotic tendency you might have, which is something we work very deeply on in very specific ways through the Enneagram typology in business. We understand how we all have neurotic characters and personalities and egos that drive us to do all kinds of weird things. And they are all based on distortions, things that we don't really get right about reality, but we continue believing because that's what we've always done. We call these habit patterns of the mind, and there are ways to unravel that and get to the truth and the essential nature of being. We call that the essence. What's really true, what's really going to give you peace and tranquility, success, love, affection, and fulfillment in life. And it has a lot to do with really being in touch with your own strength and your own power, no matter what other people say or do, and no matter what you achieve. So this is a very important question to look at. Who are you comparing yourself to? How can you stop? And how can you just focus on what you need to get done, not in a self-obsessed way, but in a self-directed way where you are not worrying so much about how this affects your image compared to other people. The last question you can ask yourself goes a little deeper into this, which is about self-esteem. Ask yourself, is your self-esteem wrapped up in this whole goal that you are pursuing? What do you think it's going to actually give you? Is it possible to feel that without going on this mission, this goal obsession? Maybe there's a way for you to get that feeling playing with your kids, giving some quality time to them at the end of the week. Maybe there's a way for you to work on that a little bit more in your self-development work if you are starting off with that. Because I tell you what, one of the hardest things to work on is your anger, your frustration, and or your disillusionment from pursuing goals and or having an intention and an obsession towards something that doesn't play out the way you want, and then having a lot of people actually dislike you for the way that you become so self-oriented and so distorted about what's going on around you and how people are interacting with you. So I'm sure you know that when someone says, it's good, to go and talk to someone, it doesn't always feel good, right? You always think that it's a bit of criticism. And nothing is more true than someone who's goal obsessed and who's driven so much that they just think they're doing everything right and fantastically well and are not open to any feedback or any criticism. And really, as in my example, they end up being the kind of person that everybody starts to dislike and recognized was once helpful and devoted to the project or to the team or to the organization, but really the feedback starts to come out that this CEO or this manager is getting into such a bad habit, and the staff try to tell him that, right, that the relationships are getting damaged, and this person might really not be willing to hear that at a point where they are absolutely shut down to any feedback or anything negative from anyone around them, because they are so focused on what they want to get done and really ignoring everything else around them. So this is the worst place to be, really, where you just really are not open to the feedback. and we all know that our egos can take us to that place, and it's very hard to come back from that place. We often have to have some kind of breakdown or some kind of misfortune that humbles us after that. And these are, again, some really classic themes in a lot of the stories that are told all around the world in all cultures about the hero and about the humility, the integrity that we are forced to create and integrate in our process of becoming the best version of ourselves in life. That somehow life has within it a mechanism to teach us that we are not better than anyone else, and we're not superior, and we are really, no matter what we achieve, moving from dust to dust. And so in all the deep teachings on how to get in touch with the true value of life, this is something we all confront. So try to ask yourself those 4 questions to really manage the possibility that you might be going on some kind of mission that's going to burn you out and or create negative relationships with people around you. Ask yourself, why do you want to complete a goal? Ask yourself, is it for yourself or for others? Is there a way for this goal to be beneficial to others? Ask yourself if there is a way for you to actually have what you're pursuing in a more enjoyable way. So is there a way to just also not really have an outcome there? Is there a way to just be on the journey and not be too attached to the result? And then ask yourself, really, is there a way for you to also step aside from comparing yourself to everyone else when you decide what it is that you want to get done and how? Try to be a little bit less focused on the social comparison to everyone else around you. And then lastly, the self-esteem. Is your self-esteem wrapped up in this? And is there a way for you to feel better about yourself or develop your strength without getting into this particular way of focus and obsession on goal taking and achievement? We're done for tonight. Thank you so much for watching this video. And as I mentioned, you can email me at ahaiqmail, ahaiqmail @gmail.com. And I will send you a link when you put REI in the subject box for a audio 30-minute brain optimization complimentary gift from the Strong Institute, and it's based on rhythmic entrainment interventions that have developed very powerful research over the last 30 decades to indicate that the brain and the nervous system smooth out and calm down after very specific stimulation of 6 to 8 beats per second. This has been refined into very powerful audios that work for up to 6 hours after listening. And there are various ones that help us get more energy, get more creative, actually work with more productivity, and to sleep well and to actually calm down. So it really does have an effect on the adrenaline system. If you want something much more customized to you and your specific needs, the interventions happen over 4 to 6 months, and they actually take us to optimal functioning. But those are long-term beneficial resulting programs. This one will definitely help you in a day to actually break the continuous cycle of being too focused and aroused in the cortisol adrenaline kick in the brain from being goal obsessed. So thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to meeting you again. Bye-bye.